Hey, yo, it's Guido coming back with a tactics talk. Thanks for tuning in. On this episode, I've got 4 replays from Gangstar. He sent me a note and said, hey, would you take a look at these and see if you could come up with a couple things in here? I'm in a bit of a slump. And I said, you know what, I'll be happy to do that. Let's take a look at it. Gangstar is a form regular and a very good player. So we'll see what we can dig out of this. Probably going to be not very glaringly obvious things, although I have a couple things in mind already. I have looked at all 4 of these already, so we've gone back and now I'm going to do the voiceover here. And we'll talk about what Gangstar's doing in his AMX 50B Tier 10 French heavy tank. A couple of these are top tier, and I think a couple of them are single tier at Tier 10. And it's on 4 different maps. So we'll take a look at this and see if we can get any pointers out to Gangstar, who I think believes he's in a bit of a slump, although when he sent the picture of how he'd been doing, it was 10 and 8, which is 55%. So, you know, that's kind of in the ballpark, I think. On a small sample size for anybody, that could easily be 45%, and I don't think it'd really mean that much either way. You've got to look at, obviously, the big picture there. However, he thinks he's having a bit of a rough struggle or a rough time, so let's see what we can see as we go here. And realize here, gang, that you and I have a bit of a different style of play, just from what I can tell in these 4 replays. And I'll talk about that as we go. I'm not necessarily saying mine's better or you should adopt it, but I'm going to give you some things that I think maybe you should have thought about and done in these games. And I think if you looked at 4 of my games, you could probably do the same for me. So he's going to go to the middle here on Mountain Pass, and we're going to have some issues with gunnery here and a little bit of RNG trolling us. What? that shot could not have missed less. Is that what I'm looking for? I mean, it went in that little notch between the turret and the back deck. That was unbelievable. So he took some shots there. Good positioning for early shots. Early damage is important. That's a good spot to go. He had a scout out in front. No issues with that initial move. But now my question to you, Gangstar, is what's the plan? And I'm going to say this probably about a dozen times or more in these 4 replays. Because in a couple occasions, or more than once, and basically on every one of these maps, there were parts of the replays where I was thinking, what are we trying to do? Where's the next move? What's the idea here? So my question then is, all right, what are we doing here? We're hanging out in the middle. Okay, we got our initial shots, but now what are we doing? Where's the fight? Where can you go to be effective? You're top tier in a 3-5-7. Your tank has got to get involved and start killing things. So the 49 gets away. Just unlucky a little bit right there. A little bit shaky on the gunnery. We've taken 2 shots. I'd have forced to reload. Nobody's pushing in right now. Maybe you thought you were going to get a shot on someone trying to YOLO into the T49, and then you push it right there. So not that far off, and I'm not saying I would have been much faster, but that's what should have been thinking. You should have been thinking there, or anybody for that matter. So now we're going to move up here, and again, I'm kind of thinking, man, Gangstar, what are we doing? We're looking for the 101. Maybe we'll catch him out here, but I have to say, who cares? The 101 is out of the fight if he's looking that way right now. There's nobody there. Now you notice there's somebody in the middle. And everyone might say, well, great, Gangstar's in the middle. He can sort this thing out. You know, a JPZ coming up the middle, those things are so slow. I don't even know if he's a factor to this fight. What I will tell you is a factor to this fight, in my opinion, is down here in the southwest where the bulk of your tanks went. So you seem to be playing as a support tank. I have issues with that term. I don't. That's a tactic, not a type of tank. But let's say you've chosen that tactic. Supporting the 103, the Scorpion, the O, whatever it is down there, the Tiger 2, coming down there with that big autoloader and jumping out and annihilating people after they take a couple shot at your guys, I think that's where you need to be. And you could probably have helped them clean this corner up. Once that corner's cleaned up, this thing is so fast, if that JPZ came trundling up the middle like it did, then you could always turn around and go back. Or you could even come around and flank behind him or kill off these things. Now, who knows where the mouse is? He's probably trundled over here. And it may be part of your calculus. You're trying to avoid the mouse, but then I have to ask why. Why? Because if you're not there helping them take the mouse out, who is? Nobody. There's nobody else. If you can avoid it, kill all his friends, and then get back to the mouse, well, that's a good thing. Or maybe even the Type 4 if you want to throw those 2 super heavies in, lump them in together. But what we're seeing is a good initial position and then sort of hanging out, not really supporting where I think the major battle is. And now we're going to go over here and we're going to mess with this JPZ. And it takes a while to find him. What I would have done here, I think, is I would have come up against this rock and seen if I could not get him proxy lit The danger is that as you're scooting forward, he actually comes screaming around the corner, as far as the JPZ screams anyway, and gets a shot on you. But at least you could identify where the guy is. It looks like you will in a minute. There's a Utes going back around here. But we're kind of hanging out here. And this is something I talk about a lot with all the guys when I review their plays, is if your gun isn't shooting, what's going on? Especially in this phase of the game, so early when there's so many targets out there. If your gun isn't shooting, then exactly what are you doing? In this case, you're probably saying, well, dummy, I'm trying to keep this JPZ from driving in behind. All right, fair enough. See if we can create some shots on this guy. Getting a little closer. A little closer. Think about how many shots you would have had down on that corner down there by now. And that JPZ, now here comes the CDA, and he's with the JPZ. JPZ will come with him. But think about all that time you could have been down there helping him clean up, or at least start whittling down that Mouse right there. I think with you here or not, the JPZ gets through because he's about to kill you. But if you'd have gone down to the southwest and helped them kill a few more down there, you probably live a bit longer, and then all of you can deal with the JPZ. So that's a bummer. And you get some really unlucky RNG to some extent in this game. The JPZ driving around just pointing at you and hitting you like that, and pinning, of course, and then you've got a bat chat driving up your butt. So the other part about being where you are without your friends is you have no backup. You had a UDES, so you get this explosion off the screen, that's annoying me. You have the UDES, another explosion. You have the UDES right there, but he's of limited value in this fight right here. And then there's the Progetto kind of hanging back as well. Had you been down here with these guys, you could have started cleaning those dudes up. The Bat Chat was trolling around. Really, all in all, your team's in pretty bad shape all around on this. It wasn't a great deployment, and the other team is doing pretty well right here. But I really think, at least for this replay, had you gone down here to this critical terrain and started fighting down there, you would have given your team a better chance to win than it had right now. And I think that just goes back to playing a little bit as a second line support tank maybe, but I think your support was too far back in the game. There is a large contingent of players, especially good players, who will definitely hang back in games and then rage out and assassinate everything. Usually they're close enough to get shots while they do that, and that is a way or a technique that is taught quite a bit in this game, and it is quite valuable. If you're two marking or you want to be the greatest DPG guy in whatever tank, that is pretty much the best way to do it. You got to be carefully aggressive. That's when I talked about you and I have a different kind of play style. I would have definitely been down there in the southwest duking it out with these guys, and I tend to get wrecked doing that a little bit more, so I don't last as long probably as I should. But I find that kind of gameplay a lot more interesting. But I think in this case, it would have been more effective as well. And especially considering a 357 and you're top tier heavy. Unlucky you were matched across with a Mouse. It's just something you got to deal with. You know, dab 2 and move on. Although I don't think you carry any gold on this. Let's move on to the second one. Here's the second one, also top tier, but a 510, so you're only one tier up above all the 9s. And everything in this game is quite capable. This tank, the 50B, is fairly soft. Nearly everything that you're facing is going to have not a lot of problem penning you unless you can give them some kind of goofy angle with either your hull or your turret right there. This is also another interesting one, and going back to the one we just talked about, where play styles are different. When you have a player who is good, like Gangstar is, it can be difficult at times to say, all right, dude, you're not aggressive enough, because what he's been doing has been working, unless we're talking about potentially he's being much more defensive than he used to be. There's a larger meta discussion in there about how campy the game is becoming, and maybe he's reacted to that. I don't want to put those kind of thoughts or words into his mind or say that's what it is, because he'd have to actually explain maybe he was more aggressive, now he's less, or maybe he's not even changed his gameplay. All those things could be factors, and that's where it becomes a little more difficult with a better player, trying to sort out all of those things, and having only looked at 4 of his games. But we'll take them each as we go. We're jumping in here to Serene Coast. We've spawned into the northeast, and he's going to come up, and I think this is a good position initially, but it kind of gets interesting for me right here. You're going to come up with the 54, the WZ-120. What else we got? We got a 7-1 coming in, and you're going to kind of stop right here. We also have a Patton moving as well. You're going to kind of stop here and look for some sniper shots. Okay, not a bad idea, and you're getting some light, so the shots are there. There's some damage, so that works. Punished one of them. I'd immediately have right there hit C and boogalooed out of here. That's my free shot. Let's go ahead and head over this way and start supporting these guys, because this is a great tank for punishing people who poke over this hole, trying to take on over this hill, trying to take on your guys. It's a great tank for that. The best armor you have and the most angled is your turret. So while it does tend to get pinned at this type of tier, at least you've got a chance to get some shots in there. And the Patton just is getting wrecked. Bat Chats jump up there and just eat him alive. Unfortunately, you miss. You make him miss. That was nice. And then you miss and he hits, naturally. And hit C. There we go. So hit C. And what I really thought you were going to do here was move up and keep on supporting, but it looks like you're bugging out, which was an interesting decision for me. It goes back to the discussion earlier about the critical terrain. Clearly the fight's going to be there. Now, they have definitely overmatched your tanks. So you've probably looked at that map and went, you know what? I'm just going to get rolled up if I stay there. But I think for the moment you have enough tanks that you can hold them back. They don't really have anything that's really that scary. And you've got quite a few guns there. More than likely you can shred things if they come at you. Now, if those 3 Bat Chats are able to get around behind you, and maybe you were thinking you're going to go cut them off over here. Look out for that rock. But those are all speculations that where I would have stuck with the higher percentage. Let's stay there for a minute, see if we can't farm some of these guys trying to push into us, and then move on. And as it turns out, we just kind of were wandering around the middle. And I've seen this quite a bit with some players that I do the replays for, is they're flexing, but there doesn't seem to be a real purpose to the flex. Right? So you went and, I'm not going to get some shots over there. I don't like that. Looks like we're going to get run over. So I'm going to flex because that's what we're taught to do. Go somewhere else and find a shot. Don't let yourself get overrun and killed. But I think you had plenty of friends over there to keep yourself from being overrun and killed. In fact, they're still fighting. Looks like they're doing a decent job, at least for the moment. And just think of the difference. Just like I talked about last time, just think of the difference your autoloader, maybe a reload or two, would have done. 7-1 gets pushed into, and that flank's going to fall. Really, to a large extent, because you left it. I'm not saying it's completely your fault. I'm not saying the game was lost because of you, but you're certainly not over there supporting it. And we haven't shot for a while. We took 4 shots at a T95 that was well angled and well armored, so that was probably not really going to do much. Now we're going to cruise back over here and try to get in the trees. We're down 3-1, but your dudes are still holding. Just imagine if you'd have been over there, how much damage you could have racked up. You might have removed a couple of those tanks already. They're all damaged. And that burst capability with the multiple shots of the 50B in that fight would have been devastating. And it may have made all the difference. In fact, I think it would have. The guy gets away. See, look at them. They're just taking these guys on. They did a really nice job. They shredded them. So let's stop. We got 3 guys. That's a 2-shot. That's a 1-shot. There's a 2-shot. Let's say you fired 2 clips and put 6 shots into them. Those guys are all dead. There we go. So we got him. Finally, RNG smiles upon you. And it's not over. This looks actually not bad. It's 3-5, but guess what? You're all stuffed into a corner. And this is the worst thing about a reposition with no purpose that gives up ground. Now you end up getting stuffed in a corner, and no matter how good your team is, you're at a big disadvantage when you're stuffed into a corner. Big TDs will change that disadvantage a little bit because that's where they excel, being stuffed into corners with limited shot lanes. But right now, and you just lost 3 or 4 guys right in a row, which is a result of being stuffed in a corner and not having any kind of standoff. They can see you, and you cannot see all of them. So they only need a couple forward to light you. The rest of them can shred you from multiple directions and ankles. From all them ankles. Again, another interesting decision. You sort of look over there, and then you say, "Now let's go back over here." Then you get hit by Artie, which kind of blew my mind. Where is he? He must be here-ish or something, or maybe even on this corner here. I don't know how he actually got you there. Get a shot. No idea why that didn't track the guy. And we move forward. It's all over but the shouting right here. I mean, you're completely surrounded. They've still got the 3 bat chats that are just waiting to come in and assassinate everyone in sight. Can't quite get a shot because your T-30's in the way right there. I'll be honest, I'd have moved up with the T-30, used the good depression on this tank, and tried to take some of those guys out. The T-10 just snaps you again. Your opposing RNG has been bad for you and good for them, that's for sure. But that's just sport bitching. We can't blame all that on that kind of thing. So finally we kind of go over here and like, all right, maybe I can kill a couple of these guys off. Probably not going to kill off the T-10. He's got a lot of hit points. T-49 shows up behind you. Oh! Missed him. Missed him. He missed you. You got 1 shell, and I could kind of see it going through your mind right now. Screw it. I'm just going to go kill this one guy, and whatever happens, happens. You don't really have time to press C and reload, and naturally the T-95 shows up. And it looks as if you did no damage on him, even on the blind shots. You're trying to get around the corner, and boom, down you go from one of the, I don't know who got you there, bat chats or something. Somebody got you. All right, man, let's move on to number 3, but we'll recap those 2. I think your initial positioning decisions on both of them were pretty good, looking for that initial damage. Your follow-up, I did not like. You didn't really select a side to go to and get supportive with and attempt to help them, and there seemed to be some kind of random repositioning just for repositioning's sake. Now, I'm sure there was something going through your mind, and if you had a better reason than I'm coming up with here, go ahead and type it in, no worries there, but that's just kind of what I'm seeing on these 2. Let's move on to the 3rd one. Here we are on the 3rd one, and Gangstar has loaded into Westfield. He's top tier. Of course, everybody's top tier because it's an all tier 10 battle on Westfield. Very little arty cover other than in that town area, which is a terrible place to fight. And there's 3 massive arty. So this is basically just misery loves company here. Just going to be a miserable game. It shows some of the problems with tier 10 on small maps. The vision saturation, the accuracy, the speed, the everything that a tier 10 is. It's really easy to get shredded very fast. You're going to come up here and immediately find the 45 or 4005 and does a nice job putting a shot in there. I mean, I might have been a little more aggressive and tried to get another one. I mean, I realize you're dancing with Hesh and a big hit, but you did all that effort to get up there and try to find this guy. You did all that effort to get up there and try to find that guy, and then you only took 1 shot. And that was really nicely done, actually. How the IS-7 actually got the depression there to put a shot into you, that's incredible. And he's driving, and naturally hits you and pins you. But it was a good job putting the 2nd shot into his sprocket after he fixed the 1st one, and then letting him eat a 3rd one. So that technically, as far as all that goes, I got nothing to add to the way you play the game as far as shot selection and things like that. You're doing a nice job with all that. And so here we are kind of hanging out, and we're really kind of fixated on the IS-7, right? It's like, all right, I'm an IS-7, I'm going to get you. You shot me, dumb IS-7. I'm going to get you. And you're probably thinking, well, I don't want him to come up and over. But you know what, dude? That guy's not coming up and over. I mean, there's 82 people back there ready to shoot him. What you need to do is go make a shot. Go figure it out. The bummer is you got a 705A down in the town, and you don't have anybody keeping them honest. So this spot right here is very dangerous because of that. You can be shot in the side from down in the town, or any clowns who are hanging on this backside where they like to sit, or even along this ridge over here, they can end up shooting you if you just come up and over. At tier 10, everything is so bloody accurate and hits so hard, you have to be careful about that. Plus, the higher up on this you come, the flatter the spot for the arty to blap you. The back slope is pretty good. It makes it a little more difficult for them to hit you, but as you flatten out, it's very easy to hit you up there. However, this is a good spot, as you well know, because you can do what you're going to try to do, which is shoot guys in the side who are up here like this Type 5 here. But the problem is, with all these big TDs still around, and it looks like there's a 110E4 over here, but there's also another one hanging out maybe over there somewhere. Those are the things we want to watch out for. So, fortunately, the 4005 is dead. Your guys are going to come up. They're filling this spot over here. One thing I would say you probably need to do a little bit more of is check what's going on, because the reason I'm coming over there to check this thing Now, right now you're going after this IS-7, but earlier is just to kind of take an assessment of my own team's hit points, because that may let me know whether or not they're likely to get pushed or if I need to get out. If they're all down to one shots and it looks like these guys are strong, I may start thinking about, all right, as soon as these guys start moving on us, I'm going to have to get out of here. That's just one of the things that you would get SA on. You come up over here, unlucky, and IS-7 turns his turret, shoots you, hits, and pens. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. I thought it was a good chance to take, trying to get a shot on him. I think you actually have a shot on this guy. I can't remember. You kind of look, there we go. Look at that. If you'd have, oh no, 3-star, look at that dude. If you'd have come straight up right there, you might have been able to get high enough to put it into the front sprocket and trap that guy again. But as it is, we kind of sit there, and it just takes a little long to recognize that that shot's there. Already going in. You got a pretty good overmatch right here. Things are actually looking pretty good. Again, I would be looking left to see what my guys are doing. And it may be a case of, if you don't like that hill, if you don't like coming up over that hill anymore, then don't fight here. Just reposition within your meta position and head over and get in with the 705A. Maybe you can swing around there and start punishing guys. There's another IS-7 down there as well. But as it is, we just kind of, again, I'm sort of asking, all right, what's the plan here? And if the plan is just simply patience, well, I get that, but you got to start creating shots. Because for every second that you're not creating a shot and taking hit points from the enemy, they're taking hit points from your team. Especially with 3 artillery. 3 artillery are just going to start wearing everyone down. Now, this was an interesting move right there. The LT tries to get in there, light tank tries to get in there, and it looks like he's trying to distract these guys, and they're all going to be pointing at him. So this is the time to come raging up and take shots, but let's watch what actually happens here. He gets through, goes around. If you'd have come straight up and over, and then, of course, that's what's going on over there. So I would have immediately tried to jump and go after these guys when that LT went by. Unfortunately, and maybe you were thinking about that if you were good on you, I had no idea the bat chat was in there. But looks like you're going to try to go, all right, let's get in there, and then you just get wrecked. A WZ, a bat chat, I mean, everybody and their dog is shooting you down there. And that's the problem with leaving this town and not having at least one person in there. If they are in the town, that's the problem with coming up over that edge that I had that long discussion earlier. Their guns are out of the game. Just like all the idiots who are down here, by the way, which is a whole nother subject. No one down here matters on this map almost ever. Do they ever matter? Almost never does this push kill them off and then come up and around. This is a useless flap of skin down here. Do not ever go down here. Just don't do it. This is okay if you get shots on guys doing what Gangstar did, but these dudes are essentially out of the game if you don't give them shots. That's why this terrain up here is so important to win and overmatch real quick and sweep these guys out, because you can really protect yourself from every other clown that's basically from here all the way over to here. It does expose you a bit to the guys up here if you're coming around the corners, the TD spots. The rest of the map can't touch you. So they're basically useless flaps of skin doing nothing, which is why you come in here, overmatch, and crush whatever's up here as fast as possible. All right, man. So just a little bit of an indecision. I think a good initial position to go to, but once the battle developed, you should have looked at it and go, you know what, this is not a good place for me. I'm going to go ahead and switch this out and go somewhere else. Your FV, is he? No, he's sitting down there. In addition to that, coming up over here with the E100, or maybe even all the way to this other side right here, would have been good. Because there are still, at least there was for a while, and then there's the 4005. They'll keep anybody from coming up and over, because they'll punish them. And if they do, if that IS-7 then decides to come up and over, you can always swing back and then climb down into this little valley, either from behind here, where you're protected, or even in this saddle where you're mostly protected. Deal with them when they're down in here and still protect yourself from all these guys in the town that have basically taken themselves out of the fight. Ideally, you have a couple of your big tanks down here, kind of keeping them honest, skirmishing, so that they don't have shots on your side. But you gotta fight the battle that you're given, and hanging out there and coming up over there is probably not the right idea. All right, that's enough of that. Let's move on to number 4. For replay number 4, I think it really wraps up everything I've been saying quite nicely, and it'll illustrate, I think, again, some of the things some of the themes I would say that I have for you. We're going to go on Himmel's Dork, and we're headed up from the north spawn. We're going up the hill, which I thought was not a bad idea. Taking a look at what you got, you have a pretty good force down stoppering up Tank Alley. You have 2 Bat Chat or RHM Bat Chat have already made it up top, proving there's nobody there to shoot you, which is really nice. So you can come up over the top. There's a Bat Chat, there's a Leopard 1, and you've got a pretty good force coming up. So you do get spotted, that's fine. You kind of hang out right here for a minute. There's a Leopard, there's the Progetto 65, there's a Bat Chat, so they have a decent force, but pretty soon you're going to have a pretty dominant overmatching force. Now let's stop this for just a minute and take a look at this situation. If you count the number of tanks that they have spotted, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which means there's only 3 unaccounted for. And I'd suspect at least one of them is over there on the west side. So you come over here. I thought this was not a bad move. You have a pretty good stack up on that corner, so no reason to go over in that corner. Although an autoloader can be very effective on that corner if they can get the tanks to take shots. But now you've got this kind of swarm with you. And I like this. You're getting a little aggressive. You got the 110 E5. Your main force is up here. If you're going to win this game, this force has got to clear out this flank and then either come back or come down and flank them. I like going back, but I also like a little bit of flank action depending on what's down here stoppering you up. But they have had a couple better tanks show up. We've got the 110 E5 and the Kranvagn is up here. So you do have a better force than they do. It's not quite as overwhelming as I thought before, but a couple of those 3 that we had unaccounted for are actually slower tanks that are just now showing up. But now you've got them in a pickle because you have the 2 directions you can come at them from. You've got the 2 directions you come at them from. You're moving over to here, and then the Bat Chat and these, or the T-57, the 110, and all these guys can move in from the top. And this fight should go pretty quickly. And you get absolutely hammered here because the Bat Chat turns around, which I would have been watching out for, definitely. You only get 1 shot, and you come up and over, and they just all swing the turrets, and you're getting hit from multiple directions right there. Actually, I guess it's only 2 hits, which it seemed like a lot more. There it is. There's another one. Bat Chat got you as well. Problem is there's a lot of autoloaders here, which limits the ability of your guys to push through. But guess what? Your little move and your friends here getting their attention really has them turning. But what's bizarre to me is you kind of all of a sudden we're ignoring this fight up here. You got 3 shells. Your entire team is in flanking, crushing these guys, and all of a sudden we've turned around and we're like, oh yeah, let's shoot this 121 down here. Yep, granted, it's a good shot. It's a nice shot on him, but who cares? You got to clear this off, man. And that's 2 shells that were not shot into these dudes that you could have taken on them. And I might even pushed up into this little low area, got these guys busy, and as soon as these guys start taking shots at you, okay, yeah, you might take some hit points. The rest of these dudes jump on them, and they're just shredded in seconds. But notice nobody wants to do that. Everyone wants to play peekaboo, and they don't want to be the guy who gives up a few hit points to make it happen. See that? You completely own this entire side, and your guys just aren't pushing. And part of it, frankly, gang, is you turned around and started shooting somewhere else as well. I'm not saying they took the cue from you, but that's kind of the whole attitude right there with everybody was just, nah, well, someone else will do it. So now you've got it cleared. You're actually in pretty good shape. It's 4-3, but your positioning on the map is not bad at all. And I don't know if I'd have poked down there trying to go after it. Ooh, cannot believe that 110E4 didn't get you. You must have been reloading. Now you're a one-shot to nearly everything in the game. There's a Sheridan raging around. All right, so I'm going to pause it here. I want everybody to look at the situation on the map. Look at where the tanks are. Think about you're in your 50B. What do you do? What do you do? What's the next move? Let's see what Gang does. He's reloading, so there's not a whole bunch he can do right now, other than find a position to maybe get a shot pretty soon. Seems very indecisive to me. We're kind of back and forth, back and forth. That guy is down there. He's going to be hard to pin unless he gives you a side shot, and then you just back behind that road. We're at 8 and 6. We're sort of looking around. And I'm going to ask you again, man, what's the plan? What are we doing here? This is one of the situations on this map and in this game that drives me absolutely batty. I think that Progetto was actually shooting at the Panzer. RHM PCW missed him and bounced off of you, so lucky right there. Your sixth sense didn't go off, so I don't think he saw you. Back to my question of, all right, this is one of the situations that drives me batshit crazy, is people sitting on this hill attempting to snipe when there's all kinds of shots of opportunity down below. If you just take your fast tank and go create shots, you got a 4-clip autoloader. You get down there and start supporting that 110E5 and the 121. They came off the hill pretty much immediately. You're going to start owning people down there. But we're going to see if we can snipe a JPZ 100 from the top of the Himmelsdorf hill onto his top turret. Well, you hit it, or the top of his casemate. And he's going to back around the corner. Take another shot, try and track. And now we are reloading again. And we've been up here, I don't know how long. There we go. Now we're moving down. Again, consider the lost time. What could I have done down below with better shots, supporting some of my tanks? Could I have kept some of the tanks alive? Or at least kept them on more hit points? Yes, I'd have to be absolutely careful with my one-shot 50B if I came down, which is why I would not go down there alone in some random direction, but I would go down as the quote-unquote support tank and help the guys that have the hit points and who are running around there with the armor. Unfortunately, this Progetto spots you right there. It would have been a lot nicer if you'd been able to get to that spot without them knowing you were there. So I kind of thought he would come around there, but he hangs up, which is probably a smart move, and he's sort of moving back and forth, and we get a shot into him. So that was nicely done. I like that. A little dangerous, but you made it happen. And that's the kind of aggressive play that I like right there. Minimize the capability of them to hit you, so minimize your exposure as best you can, but look for the shot. Create the shot. Sitting on 2 shells, going around behind. If I was going to reposition that much, I would have hit C and get all 4 of my shells. Especially, this is cleanup on aisle 2 time right here. All 4 shells, then look for your opportunity to come out and shoot the JPZ with all 4 of them. Yeah, he's probably reloaded. I don't know if he shot or not. That's a hard one to tell. Then you hit the C, so I think that was right. Why the 4005 doesn't just go around the corner and get his damage, I will never know. But he is just happy to sit there with his 1,500 hit points. Waiting for the reload, waiting for the reload. Cran's doing his thing. We're going to switch, try to make a different angle. Finally, the 110E4 and the T57 are getting back over. They've been cleaning people up on the other side of the map for a while. T57's moving in. 110E5's moving in. Everyone's worried because they're about a one-shot. Oh, there comes the JPZ. Tracked them, nicely done. Boom. Takes down the 57. You get one more shot. I just tucked up here. I'm not exactly sure why you're dancing with him right here, because he's... Unless you were just trying to make him look at you. I suppose that's a possibility there as well. 57 was not happy with you. I think he thought that you blocked him, but I don't think he did that on purpose. We ended up with 2,900, which is not bad, but a lot of that damage at the very end on cleanup mode. So what would I say overall with that? I think your initial positioning decisions are strong. Anyone at your level of play probably has those kind of decisions. Your technical ability with the tanks appears to be solid. Again, somebody with your stats would have that capability as well. Your ideas of needing to flex, but the actual execution, I think, are something you need to think about and work on, or could do better. I think we all could do that better at all times, but I gave you some specific examples on just the 4 you sent me right here, where it looked like there was a lot of indecision, and if I had to hazard a guess, I would say you were playing your AMX-50B as a support tank, but I don't think you were supporting the right spots at the right time. Let's put it that way. So If you have any thoughts on what you're doing, or maybe I'm just completely out to lunch, which is certainly possible, go ahead and leave it down in the comments. And thanks for sending in the replays, man. I do appreciate it. I also appreciate that you sent me in replays where things didn't go well. Most people feature really great games, and that's all good. You can learn some stuff from them. I think the group that we have here on this channel learns more from the bad things, where we can look at it and have a honest self-assessment and some introspection and go, you know what? He's right. I didn't do that right. Or I need to work on that. You know, I do it myself. I look at my own replays and videos and discuss, hey, that was dopey. Don't know really why I did that. What I should have done is X, Y, or Z. But anyway, thanks for sending in. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in to the channel and supporting it in whatever manner it is. And we will see ya.